Hello and welcome to Business Daily on Trust Television, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Chiamaka Mwafo. Let's start you off with some top stories in the business world. Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us here on Business Daily. Now let's go look at what happened on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange on Tuesday. Now, the end of close trading on Tuesday, the ASI closed at 66,770.97 points. That was an increment of 0.59%. Now, prior to now, for like a week or so, our stock exchange had been on the downward trend. The bears had been having a field day on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, but it seems like the bulls are up and coming up again. Now, the market capitalization closed at 36.554 billion naira, and the volume of trades were about 365.207 million units of shares that were valued at 3.874 billion naira in deals of 7,542. Now, what does this mean, generally? Now, comparing it to Friday, now because of the public holiday on Monday, the Nigerian Stock Exchange didn't have any trading on the floor. So we're going to compare Tuesday's data to Friday's data. Now, comparing that data, we see there was a 24% improvement in volume. Actually, we can see that, and a 15% decline in turnover. Actually, Friday closed at 4-point-something billion naira, but a 19% improvement in deals. Yes, the last deals we had was about 6,000 something deals, but there's been a slight improvement, going up at 7,544 deals. Now let's move over to our gainers table. Now we can see that on the gainers table we have BUA Cement, but before I get into it, we had about 116 NGX listed equities who participated in trading, and we had about 24 gainers, 27 losers. This means that the market breadth closed negative. Now, on our gainers table, BUA Cement led the table with 9.94% up, closing at 94 naira. And now FTN Cocoa Processors went up at 9.93%, closing at 1 naira 66 kobo, and we have Better Glass Limited closing at 66 naira 95 kobo, up by 9.93%. You can see that there's not so much difference between the top gainers. It's just about 1% between BUA Cement and FTN Cocoa Processors, and then the same thing by volume of increment by percentage, I mean. Now let's go over to our red table and see what's happening there. On our red table, we have Computer Warehouse Group, and they're topping the table with 7.7 naira. That is closing about minus 9.94%. Then we have Red Star Express Limited at 2 naira 65 kobo, closing at 9.86%, and Tantalizers Limited at 0 naira 29 kobo, was at 9.38%. Those are the losers on. Those are the toppers actually on our losers table. Now let's move over to our top traders. Now we see that Consolidated Hallmark Insurance had a large portion of the trades at 71.536 million units of that were traded in shares, while Fidelity Bank followed with 33.22 million units of shares in 216 deals valued at 272 million naira. Owando followed in third place at 26.190 million units of shares traded in 277 deals valued at 219 million naira. Those are our top traders: Consolidated Hallmark Insurance, Fidelity Bank, and Owando. Does this in any way have any effect on our sectors? Let's take a look. Now, on our sectors, we see that NGX Banking is back to winning ways. On Friday, if I recall correctly, I think it closed in the red, but it's back now up to winning ways at 0.31% on the green side. NGX Industrial at 3.53% on the green side as well. NGX Consumer Goods at minus 0.41%. NGX Oil and Gas, it seems to maintain that same position of 0.00%, and NGX Insurance at minus 1.81% on the red side. Now let's see what's happening on our African continent. Over at the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, it is 70,773.21 basis points. The last time they closed, it was about 72,000. So actually, that's a red. They're going down at minus 0.65%. Now we see that Ghana Stock Exchange just seems to maintain being on the green upward trend at 3,172.93, maintaining that position at going up at 0.40%. Now Nairobi Stock Exchange, we're still on the downward trend. It's still red over there, closing at 95.39 basis points at minus 0.16%. Hopefully something happens. It'll be a good outcome for them today at close of business. But that's the much we have for you on Stock Update right here on the show. Don't go nowhere. We'll be right back with more. Just stay tuned. Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. This is Business Daily on Trust Elevation, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. Today, we're going to be looking at something that, in a way, we've been touching on briefly for the past few days, and that is the Nigerian gas situation. And I mean the cooking gas, actually, but we'll delve into the other part of the gas situation. With me in the studio to further delve into this discourse is Faiz Ali, a public affairs and policy analyst, and Salahuddin Hashim, a policy and public affairs analyst. Both of them are in the same industry, I presume. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Now, the news has come out in the last 2 days that gas is currently for a 12.5 kg, which I want to believe at least 50% of the country that use gas has at home, is now the exact amount in Naira, now 12,500 Naira. So that means that for every 1 kg is 1,000 Naira. Can you just help me understand that? And why I'm saying this is because when we look at the information, Nigeria is the 5th globally in the world exporter of natural gas, LNG, and we have the most reserves in Africa and the 9th reserve in the world. How come our gas is increasing, our cooking gas is increasing?
All right, thank you very much. I think it would be nice to begin by saying that unfortunately our over-dependence on the oil and gas has actually brought us to where we are. And the second unfortunate situation borders around the weakness of our currency, and that increasingly has spiked the cost. And then, of course, if you look at the recent price of diesel and how it has shot through the roof, and you require both PMS and diesel as logistics to be able to move and vessel your gas, and then you can also understand why that has also created the web of increment that we have also noticed. So if you check the unfortunate policy handle of government that it has used in terms of control, we haven't seen that being deliberate, and that's why the issue of control has been a little bit challenged, and there's been some level of setback in those regards. So, but unfortunately, I think there is also the aspect of government where we have also lost strategic direction in the management of those kind of consumption rate. And if you check, for instance, one of the biggest situations that we have in this country is the absence of data. If we know, for instance, the number of people who consume, the number of households who consume gas, it is easier for us to be able to now create and provide some level of policy direction that can help to respond to those needs assessment. But because we don't have data, we don't have those kind of information at our beck and call, it becomes very difficult for anybody to make policy decisions in those particular regards. So for me, I think those are fundamental gaps and the kind of challenges that we are currently seeing. But most importantly, there must be a policy handle that help government to be able to determine and find this kind of safeguards for household, because as I tell you, it is also cumulative of the kind of challenges that families are facing.
I can say that you have so much to say, but I'm going to have to cut you so that
I think it's important to also note that on the international scene, there is currently a price increase. The price of the vessels used to transport refined gas products has increased significantly. Usually the price for the daily going price for renting a vessel for a day is about $70,000. There's going to be a projected increase of near $200,000 within the next coming weeks. And so,
weeks, not even months.
Yes, within the next coming weeks. And so gas marketers within the country have been stockpiling their products over the past couple of weeks in preparation for a price increase. And that's really what has driven the price up. When you also consider that we do not refine these products and they are imported into the country, you get a sense of why there is a constant increase in the price.
So you see we do not refine these products, but while doing my research, I saw that LNG, that is liquefied natural gas, could equally be used to cook.
Certainly.
If we're exporting it, it doesn't make sense that we don't have it in abundance to cook. Why must it be LPG? Why can't we just go the LNG way?
In the same way that we have issues refining petroleum gas, we also have issues refining cooking gas because it requires a refining capacity. which we currently really do not have.
So how are we exporting what we're not refining?
Because we're exporting unrefined. And then having it refined outside the country, and then buying the refined products for use within the country.
Okay, so we I don't want to delve into the whole policy thing, but you already brought it up. So the policy, and the Nigerian gas policy was implemented in 2017, throwing away the master gas policy and all that. What can you tell us? Because the policy was supposed to help in a way to bring private sector in and make gas help us, the cooking gas, the electricity, that make life better. What's happening really?
Well, unfortunately, since then, we've actually seen a fall of like 5% in the production of gas throughout the country. And there was a target of 85% year-on-year increase set by the Buhari administration when it was first, when the gas policy was first introduced in 2001. They've been completely unable to meet that target. And that's simply to do with different economic factors that have bedeviled the industry, whether that's currency price shocks that are still being felt, whether that's economic stagnation, whether that is the increase of prices on the international market because we've pegged our prices to the international market, and the difficulty of importing goods that we need for these production. All of these have bedeviled the industry for the past several years and have made it even more difficult for the gas sector to find way into profitability.
Salahuddin.
Yeah, basically I think again it is a function of how we have created the enabling environment for private sectors to also participate in these processes. Because obviously if you have a private sector that is not creating or getting any kind of marginal gains, or that is not having an environment that is conducive for them to function, it creates this level of setback that we see. And I think again it is something that we need to look at ourselves in the eye as a country and ask ourselves how well have we fared in terms of taking all of these products out there and then of course coming back with just an item. For instance, the crude, we export the crude and do a swap and just come up with PMS. That for me is quite unfortunate. Then we buy the crude, the PMS, we buy diesel and we buy other byproducts, and there are several other byproducts that goes into that. And of course the same thing goes for gas. We export the unrefined one, and then of course we buy, and then of course there are other byproducts that also comes with that. And again the question to ask, how well has the private sector operators been given that leverage to be able to function in a manner that allows them? Regulators and operators have also created a bottleneck for the operators to function. When you over-regulate, and the regulators are also creating some seeming checkpoints. And when you know checkpoints in the Nigerian business balance is that there are always situations that are also riddled with some level of unethical practices. So this in itself has also discouraged a lot of investors in terms of how they want to also get into this particular business.
I'm really sorry that I have to cut you short, but you keep preempting me, so let's go ahead. You talked about the private sector, and in the last few days a story news has come out that the government has given wholesale supply to a private indigenous company, not one of those foreign companies, that is the Uhuru Trading Limited, to have wholesale gas supply license, and they're supposed to be supplying 500 million standard cubic feet of gas per day. Now they are doing this private sector thing you're saying. What do you make of all this?
Yeah, I'm not impressed.
Very short time, so
I'm not impressed that does happen, because we get a lot of indigenous people who get these licenses and they sublet it. Okay, so these are some of the racketeerings that goes on in the system, where local individuals or some politically exposed person actually use those local entities to secure these licenses, and then of course at the end of the day you'll notice that the operators on ground is actually different from the license holder. And this has happened, and of course if you check some of the situation that has also given birth to policies like the PIA and all of that, is because there are varying degrees of operators on the ground. Because for instance, if a particular company is noticed to be coming, and then of course community people know that, then they see a different set of people who don't have any form of direct correlation. That is one. Two is actually the knowledge of the people who now do the operation. You'll realize that those who buy over those entities seemingly don't have adequate
know-how,
the know-how, and that in itself continues to create the kind of setback.
Okay, so
when you consider the amount of investment that has actually gone into the idea of a public-private partnership, and this is the first time you're seeing the industry make noise about a license being given to just one particular company, then you have to ask the question of what has actually been happening over the past couple of years. Considering the amount of time that it has taken to get us to this point, questions need to be asked about the regulatory framework as it exists.
Okay, so few minutes, just let's tie it up basically. Do you think now them coming on board, because I know you said your views, but do you think the private sector, this company coming on board, would expand and develop the gas sector in Nigeria?
Yeah, you need to provide all the adequate infrastructure for them to function adequately. If they have the infrastructure, both for monetary, forex, environment, overhead, and all of those things, if you have them tight and our monetary policy is actually helpful, I think they can function adequately.
Right.
I think it's going to be a very long road. When you look at even domestic gas production, for example, one of the issues that we have with electricity production in this country, and 80% of actual electricity needs are provided by the gas industry. But the reality of the situation is that while they might be able to produce up to 13,000 megawatts, they aren't able to transmit much more than 5,000. So it's really an infrastructure problem. And until we can have that settled, then we're still going to be down this particular road. The government needs to be much more serious about a stronger private and public partnership.
Wow, this has quite been enlightening. Thank you so much for coming in, Faiz Ali, policy analyst, and Salahuddin Ashim, a public affairs analyst. It's been wonderful having you people on the show.
Thank you very much.
And that's the much we have for you today on Business Daily. Same time, same place tomorrow. Do stay tuned. We have more for you on our TV station. But before we go, don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms and on our live stream and website, trusttv.com. Stay safe, spend wisely.